Almost 2 hours of cut content found in Fallout New Vegas. We'll start from the beginning. Originally, Fallout New Vegas was planned to have an in-game intro scene, with Victor actually digging you out of your grave.
Give me your hand, partner. Let's get you out of there. Are you okay, partner? You look like you could use a sarsaparilla.
However, because the developers couldn't get it to work properly, a decision was made to make the intro in a pre-rendered cutscene we see in the final game. After waking up at Doc Mitchell's house, you're asked to choose a name for yourself and customize the appearance of your human character. However, the developers initially planned to let you play as a ghoul character or even a super mutant. This idea was ultimately abandoned because it would have been too difficult to make all the weapons and armor work with the other non-human races. After completing the Vigor Tester, Doc Mitchell asks you to sit down on the couch and fill out a form to get a sense of your medical history, which brings up the trait menu. At one point, it seems Mitchell was planned to give you an actual medical history sheet to fill out. A version of this sheet can still be found in the game files. Once you're done customizing your character, you leave Doc Mitchell's house and enter Goodsprings. One of the most memorable quests in this sleepy little town is the Ghost Town gunfight, where you help the townsfolk defend themselves against a powder ganger attack. However, if you side with the powder gangers and Joe Cobb to take over the town, you'll start the Run Goodsprings Run quest instead. At one point in this quest, there was an option to free the bighorners in town. They were supposed to be locked in a fenced area that you could have opened, letting them run amok before the assault. Joe Cobb even has lines asking you to set them loose, but unfortunately no dialogue was ever recorded. If your attack was successful, the surviving town's residents would have hated you and would have attacked you on sight. They would have also hired mercenaries to go after you, and at least some of the remaining residents would have offered you tribute to buy their safety from you. Unused dialogue still exists for this scenario.
Please don't hurt us no more. I'm begging you. We'll pay you. Whatever we got, you can have it. We'll put together a collection every couple of days. We'll leave it under a rock beneath the old windmill. Think of it as a sign of respect.
There are unused trespassing voice lines for Trudy, Sunny Smiles, and Doc Mitchell. Owned areas around Goodsprings were never properly set up, likely because it's a starting area, much like how you can loot Doc Mitchell's house without him saying anything. As a result, these voice lines were left unused.
You'd better get out of here if you know what's good for you.
Hey, no trespassing.
I'm warning you.
You got no right.
Shoo! Find someplace else to be.
Keep your distance.
You shouldn't be here.
There's an unused Goodsprings sneak trigger script that would have required the player to evade a pack of dogs. If you had a sneak skill of 25 or higher, you would have evaded them. If not, the dogs would have attacked you. It's unclear whether this was intended as a separate quest or be part of the Sunny Smiles tutorial. According to a pre-release image of Goodsprings, 2 mannequins were originally meant to stand in front of the general store, along with a tire pile near the wagon. These were most likely cut to improve performance in the area. 2 Brahmin named Goodsprings Brahmin Water and Goodsprings Brahmin are found in the game files, suggesting they were also once intended to appear in the town. After leaving Goodsprings and heading towards Primm, a cut character named Wasteland Adventurer would have been encountered at the roadside near Gene skydiving. You would have been able to ask him for directions to Primm and trade with him.
Sign says you go south. Just look for the roller coaster. Oh, and don't go north. A caravan just got sacked up the road.
Do you have anything to trade?
That's a dangerous question. Ask the way a bandit might ask. But since we're close to town, I'll trust your good intentions. I could use some stim packs. How about some nice bloatfly steaks in trade?
Barton Thorne, the guy who tricks you into clearing out all the hostile geckos near Goodsprings source so he can get to the stash of a dead prospector, was meant to have a cut note on him titled, Note to Self. It would have read, remember not to roll off the cliff yourself while you're sleeping. You'll show her, you'll show everyone. What does too stupid to live even mean anyway? And at Goodsprings Source, there are 2 disabled NPCs called Travelers, connected to the side quest I Fought the Law. They would have spawned along with the mercenary disguised as a traveling merchant, who appears leaning against the Gene skydiving shack during the quest. Originally, it seems the encounter would have taken place at Goodsprings Source. Continuing down the I-15, you will discover the town of Primm. When first entering Primm, there were supposed to be additional convicts who would have attacked you. One extra convict was disabled in the building right as you enter the town, and others were meant to appear behind the Vicky and Vance casino. Primm was originally envisioned to look slightly different. According to a pre-release screenshot, there were meant to be planters and trees in front of the Bison Steve Hotel, and the pavement would have looked different as well. The town was also meant to be bigger, with a whole large residential area cut near the water tower. Cut dead casino goers were meant to appear in the wiki in Vance, suggesting that the casino was initially intended to appear raided and destroyed. This would have been done by none other than the NCR deserters, led by Layla. She has multiple unused player lines, indicating that they were the ones who raided it. After rescuing Deputy Beagle and the Bison Steve, he will ask you to find a new sheriff to protect the town, starting the side quest My Kind of Town. You'll have to choose between the NCR Sergeant McGee, Myers, or Primm Slim. In the final release of the game, if you chose to have the NCR protect the town, all you need to do is convince Major Knight at the Mojave Outpost to send in additional troops. However, originally it was intended that in order for the NCR to protect Primm, you would have had to kill Eddie, the leader of the powder gangers at the NCR Correctional Facility, and on top of that, get at least 5 citizens of Primm to sign a petition to be annexed by the NCR. The cut petition still found in the game files reads, "We, the undersigned, do hereby agree for Primm to become full participants in the new California Republic. We accept that we will follow all of the NCR laws and regulations, and support them in all wartime effort." Johnson Nash still has cut dialogue reacting to the petition.
So you convinced those NCR sons of to take an interest, did you? Well, we need the help. I'll sign.
After all the signatures are collected, you would have given them to Lieutenant Hayes, who would have then ordered Sergeant McGee to depart for Primm in this cutscene.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Are you ready to depart for Primm?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have some soldiers heading to town now. I'll have them sweep the Bison Steve before they start regular patrols.
Along with McGee, 4 NCR deputies would have joined him in protecting Primm. They would have patrolled the town, defending it against any threats. Alternatively, if you wanted Myers to become sheriff, you would have had to convince Eddie at the NCRCF to allow Myers to take over as Primm's sheriff and leave the town alone, rather than getting a pardon from Major Knight as in the final release. After convincing Eddie, Myers would have gathered a few powder gangers and made them his deputies. He has a cut scene where he would have given a speech to them before heading to Primm.
Okay, folks. I called you out here because I've grown to trust you. Primm, the town to the south, is looking for some new law. I know that you guys don't have experience with law enforcement, at least not on the enforcement side. However, I also know that you are honorable and looking for some redemption. This is our chance for redemption. Now let's head down there and bring them some law.
Afterward, the powder ganger deputies would have patrolled the town and dealt with any remaining hostile convicts. If either Sergeant McGee, Myers, or Primm Slim died while protecting the town, it was originally intended for Johnson Nash to ask the player again to help find a new sheriff.
With Myers dead and his deputies gone, Primm's only hope is to accept NCR rule. And if you run across one of their patrols, tell them so. With the NCR driven off, I figure our only hope would be for someone like you to find us someone who's crazy or dim-witted enough to take the job.
There's an unmarked quest in the Vicky and Vance casino where you have to track down and return Vance's gun, stolen by Pauline and Sammy Wins. Once you track them down and find the gun, the quest ends. However, it was actually intended for the player to return the gun back to Primm Slim, who still has some unused dialogue lines about it.
Those thieves had some gall stealing from a museum dedicated to romanticizing a couple of criminals. I'll make sure the gun ends up back on display. I thank you. Primm thanks you. And I do believe Vance would thank you if he could.
Johnson Nash also has an alternative unused response when you ask him about Victor and the package Benny stole from you.
Had me send a request to the express office in Hub for 7 couriers to be hired. Each one to carry bric-a-brac, seemed to me. Playing cards, dice, chess pieces, trinkets like that. Then next thing I know, he turns around and says he wants 6 couriers, not 7. Has me send on the corrected order for 6 couriers along with a bunch of letters and numbers, like some kind of code or something. Don't ask me what that was about, because I never seen anything like it. Anyways, you must have been Courier 6 then, the poker chip?
Ruby Nash, Johnson Nash's wife, was once intended to not only make Rad Scorpion casserole, but also reveal her recipe and teach you how to make it yourself. This is evidenced by a cut perk named Spicy Casserole, and a cut recipe note that reads, "This recipe allows you to make Ruby's spicy casserole." Finally, Primm was intended to have a reputation system, with the player being able to increase their fame or infamy depending on how they treated the townsfolk and whether they helped them or not. There's even an icon for it still found in the game files. As I mentioned earlier, the NCR Correctional Facility and the Powder Gangers are meant to be more connected and have a lot more influence on Primm, so we'll be focusing on their cut content next. Dawes, the powder ganger who guards the NCR Correctional Facility's entrance, would have been able to give you a job to fix the generator in the courtyard of the facility. Similarly, other named powder gangers would have also given you small tasks to help out the faction. Hannigan, the acting medic of the powder gangers, would have asked you to retrieve a medicine skill book for him, which would have allowed the player to receive medical treatment from him.
The fact that you're still on your feet is surprising.
Carter, the powder ganger merchant in cell block B, would have asked the player to break open a safe found in the prison. And interestingly, Chavez, the powder ganger that Eddie tells you to kill, would have originally been found locked in a cell inside the prison. He would have asked the player to pick the cell's door and free him. A cut note related to this still remains in the game files. In the final game, there are two separate cell blocks in the correctional facility, Cell Block A and Cell Block B. However, a third cell block, called Cell Block C, can still be found in the game files. In it, the powder gangers would have kept hostages, and according to the V Free Roam NCRCF script, the player would have been able to break them out and save them. Obsidian also considered adding female powder gangers, with remnants of two female test NPCs still found in the files. The faction also has an unused white balaclava mask that was intended to go with the powder ganger's simple armor, and these vicious prisoners would have even had guard dogs. All the powder ganger snipers on the towers have unused entries for a vault security armor helmet in their inventories, suggesting that they were once intended to wear them. During the last part of I Fought the Law quest, Eddie, the powder ganger leader, will task you to snoop around Primm and find out if the NCR is drawing up plans for taking back the prison from the convicts. Although you can question Johnson Nash, his wife, and Deputy Beagle, none of the other residents have any voice lines about it. But as it turns out, at one point you should have been able to also question the generic Primm residents. But for whatever reason, this option was cut.
We'd be the last to know.
Your guess is as good as mine. Probably better.
I hope they do, but I haven't heard nothing.
After finding out about the NCR's plans to take back the prison, you could have returned to Eddie and suggested improving the prison's defenses before the NCR attacks, which would have given the powder gangers a better chance of survival. Alternatively, if you decided to betray Eddie and side with the NCR to help them assault the prison, apparently it was once possible to fail the assault. If all the soldiers and Sergeant Lee were killed, you would have had to return to Lieutenant Hayes and inform him of the failure.
That explains why there's been no sit rep from Sergeant Lee. It took months to get authorization for that assault. It'll be a long time before we take on the powder gangers again.
Eddie's bodyguard, Scrambler, was originally intended to play a much bigger role. According to the V Freeform NCRCF script, Scrambler would have wanted Eddie dead, and the player could have offered to take care of him on Scrambler's behalf, with a couple of interesting options on how to do it. One would have been to confront Eddie alongside Scrambler's boys. Cut powder gangers would have been only loyal to Scrambler. Another would have been to lure Eddie outside onto one of the guard towers and push him off of it. And the third option would have been to access a cut terminal, allowing you to activate the lockdown and enable turrets around the correctional facility, which would have supposedly killed Eddie. Moving on from the NCR Correctional Facility, we'll head back through Primm and continue south towards the Nipton Road Rest Stop and the Mojave Outpost. There isn't much happening at the rest stop. Rad scorpions infest the area, and the abandoned general store holds some loot. But what's interesting about this location is that the world space for the rest stop is named Mayor Stain, referencing Joseph B. Stain, the mayor of Nipton. In the final release, Mayor Stain is killed by Vulpes in Nipton. However, it seems that originally the mayor, along with his two girls, Rose and Sylvia, was planned to appear at the Nipton Road rest stop. Although their unique characters exist, they were intended to be found dead. Interestingly, Stain's inventory includes one of the Nipton lottery tickets, suggesting they managed to escape Nipton, but still somehow met their end at the rest stop. The road to the Mojave Outpost initially featured a much larger number of cars, creating a scene of a massive traffic jam. You would have also been able to blow them all up. Unfortunately, many of the cars were removed due to performance issues. The outpost itself was also envisioned to look different. A toll booth would have been placed in front of the NCR Ranger Outpost Mojave sign, and the ruined buildings found behind the gate would have appeared across from the Mojave Outpost headquarters. According to the project director and lead designer Josh Sawyer, at one point they were toying with the idea of adding a false ending to the game. It would have allowed the player to ask Major Knight at the Mojave Outpost if you could head back to the NCR. According to Sawyer, Knight would have then warned you that the way back wouldn't open up for a while, and would have asked you to confirm that you wanted to leave. Confirming your decision would have ended the game and started rolling the credits without the ending slides. If you had a mixed reputation with the NCR and tried sleeping at the Mojave Outpost barracks, it was once intended that the troopers there would not let you rest. They would have kept waking you up and harassing you until you improved your reputation with the faction.
Get up. You can't sleep here. Move on. Wake up, Merc. These cots are for NCR only. Slumber party's over, pal. Get a move on. Wakey wakey, eggs and bakey.
This would have also happened at other NCR bases. Additionally, the troopers would have denied you access to their merchants.
This is not a market, sir. You need to improve your reputation with the NCR before you're welcome in our outposts.
Cass, a potential companion found at the Mojave Outpost barracks, has several unused voice lines. For instance, she would have commented when the player drank whiskey around her.
Bottoms up. All right, now for some ass kicking. Now there goes the pain. Now all I need is some shame to wash it down with. That hit the spot.
She also has around 40 blank dialogue topics related to the Hoover Dam battle and the various endgame outcomes. It was even once planned for the player to have the option to romance Cass. If you pursued this, the two of you would have gotten wasted and woken up married the next morning. The king in Freeside would have officiated the wedding if you had a high enough reputation with him. If you speak to Ranger Ghost at the outpost, she will ask you to investigate the town of Nipton due to the lack of traffic and the smoke coming from it. Upon arriving there, the first thing we usually see is Oliver Swanwick running around waving his hands. This was meant to be accompanied by him shouting about his victory and cursing at Nipton with voice lines that never play.
Who's the winner? Oliver Swanwick, that's who! Yeah! Ain't gonna see me up on a cross or my head on no pole! That's for losers! I am a winner! I am a winner!
It was once intended for the player to encounter Swanwick again somewhere in the Wasteland. You could have said to him, "You're the guy who won the lottery," to which he would have replied, "Lottery? You remember the lottery? God damn you, I don't need to remember that." You could have also asked him, "Do you remember the message you were told to spread?" A scrap shed structure was cut next to the general store, and an additional crucified powder ganger was meant to appear in the center of the town. Originally, Wolpez Incolta was planned to appear with blonde hair, as seen on his collector's edition playing card and in one of the Legion ending slides. Wolpez also has unused dialogue, where you could have asked him about Caesar's Legion and Legate Linnaeus.
Legatus Linnaeus, monster of the East. Quite a man, if man he be. Caesar prides himself on selecting the right tool to overcome each new obstacle. In Linnaeus, he found his hammer.
As previously mentioned, Nipton's mayor and his girls were meant to appear in the game as well, but most likely at the Nipton Road rest stop rather than in Nipton itself. Continuing along State Route 164 past the bend, you come across an abandoned ranch known as Wolfhorn Ranch. According to Fallout New Vegas' official game guide, it was once a profitable bighorner ranch, but was abandoned, and its owner, a man named Ulysses, is nowhere to be found. Chris Avalon, one of the lead designers of Fallout New Vegas, revealed that Ulysses, whom we meet in the Lonesome Road DLC, was originally meant to appear at the Wolfhorn Ranch. He was intended to be a possible companion, sympathetic to the Legion. In fact, in the Italian, Spanish, French, and German versions of Fallout New Vegas, Wolfhorn Ranch is actually called Ulysses Camp. Apparently, he ended up getting cut due to time restraints, and was later recycled for the Lonesome Road DLC. None of his original voice lines or his companion quest remains in the game. In a Twitter post, Avalon revealed that the grave located on the hill near the ranch was added as a reference to Ulysses being removed from the base game. Continuing along State Route 164 towards the Colorado River, you'll discover Camp Searchlight, a former NCR stronghold turned into a radioactive dump filled with ghoulified NCR troopers. At least 6 extra feral trooper ghouls were disabled in the town, along with additional golden geckos and rad scorpions. Sergeant Astor would have had 2 extra NCR troopers in his group as well. If you continue walking even further east, you'll reach one of Caesar's Legion's strongholds, Cottonwood Cove, a pre-war resort now occupied by the Legion. The road leading into Cottonwood Cove is lined with mostly empty crosses. Originally, most of these crosses were meant to have crucified slaves on them. There's an unused interior called Cottonwood Cove Building 01 that was most likely intended to appear here. Everything inside appears to be owned by the Legion, probably a cut interior for one of the boarded up shacks found in the camp. At one point, Obsidian even planned to have a bunker near Cottonwood Cove, with various objects referring to it found in the Gek. The bunker would have had unique irradiated rad roaches living in it. There's also an incomplete script for a logbook item related to this location. There's not much more information left in the game files about this place. Retracing our steps and heading back to Camp Searchlight, if you talk to Sergeant Esther, he'll mention the town of Novac, to the north, along Highway 95. Novac underwent a few changes in its appearance. Originally, water troughs were meant to appear under the windows of the Dino Delight front desk, and tire piles would have been placed near Victor and in and around the destroyed bus. An early magazine scan of Novac reveals that a wall of junk cars was planned as a defensive barrier, along with sandbags. Victor has a cut greeting line in Novac, where he would have warned you about no bark. The greeting reads, "A piece of advice, watch yourself around no bark. I think he's studying to be a half-wit." No Bark has cut voice lines for the Caravan card game that would have played depending on whether he won or lost.
Dang it. Shoulda known you was getting Caravan hints from the bloatfly spirits would live in these parts. Well, I'll be cold and rotten before I let them get the best of me. No Bark wins. A few more like that and the curse will get lifted for sure.
Same with Cliff Briscoe, the owner of the Dinobite gift shop.
Wonder where I went wrong. Let's try that again. Don't take it to heart. I've studied the strategies of the masters.
If you decided to free Benny from the Legion and let him escape, it was once intended that you would have met him for the final time in Novac, where he would have tried to kill you again.
Thanks for getting me out of there. Now for once, will you just lay down and stay down? No one rules Vegas except me, got it? You're a low-down gopher, you deliver mail. How you like being Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, eh? How's it feeling? Hey!
Cut it out, will you?
At one point, it was possible to start the quest, Come Fly With Me, with Jeannie Mae Crawford. She still has unused dialogue where she asks the player to deal with the ghouls at the REPCONN test site.
I don't know what they're up to, and I don't want to know. I just hope no harm comes to Novac. Not much to live off of around here, except salvage from that factory. If they made off with anything expensive, we'd be hurting something fierce. But I will say this. If all of them turned up dead tomorrow, I couldn't see as to how they'd be missed. That might even be a desirable thing, knowing the town was safe from the likes of them. There'd be a reward in it, if some brave soul made it happen.
After killing Bright and his followers, you could have returned to her to receive a reward of 150 caps, as well as a fame reputation boost in Novac.
Well, saints alive, that is a load off. Nothing to be done, though. Those ghouls just didn't know when they weren't wanted. Couldn't take a hint. And aren't you just the most unexpected gift our little town ever had? Here, take this, and go buy yourself something nice.
The REPCONN test site itself also has cut content. There's a cut outfit called REPCONN Jumpsuit that would have been found in the facility. The Nightkin were originally envisioned to look even more menacing, with their face design resembling that of the super mutants from Fallout 3. This version can also be seen in some of the pre-release images of the game. In the Come Fly With Me quest, after clearing out the basement and killing all the Nightkin for the Bright Brotherhood, Chris Haversman will ask you to gather the necessary parts to launch the rockets. Interestingly, at one point, you could have asked Harland, the ghoul trapped in the basement, about where to find the required computer parts. If you hadn't helped him yet, and he was still trapped in the basement, he would freak out and refuse to give you any information.
He did he? I swear, I should tear the rest of the hair out of that
Send a rescue mission after Harland? Nah. Let's just send some smoothskin whose radio got broke. Harland's tough. He probably enjoys waiting to be attacked at any moment. He probably loves eating nothing but roach meat. Licking up condensation from a rusted pipe is his idea of fun. So's doing business in a corner and smelling it for days. But oh, that's right. The crisis is that you need some computer parts.
If you had helped him, he would have been more helpful.
And I thought I was old. There's a junk shop east and slightly north of here. There's an old woman running it. Gilbert or something.
On the other side of Novac, towards the east, a small town called Nelson can be found, now occupied by the Legion. There are several disabled dead NCR soldiers scattered around the town, some with mines placed underneath them. More Legion soldiers were meant to appear in the town as well, but were later disabled. To the south of Nelson, you can find the Techatticup mine, which is also occupied by the Legion. Inside, the legionary Alexis was meant to play a much bigger role in the side quest Anywhere I Wander. In it, Private Reynolds, met on the road leading to the mine, asks you to rescue his fellow NCR soldiers held captive in the mine. In the final game, the only way to complete this quest is by either picking the locks to the cells, or to take the storage key that unlocks the cages from Alexis and untie the soldiers, which will make all the legionaries in the mine hostile. But according to a bunch of cut dialogue topics, you would have been able to negotiate with Alexis about freeing the captured NCR soldiers instead. There's also a topic that indicates the player could have asked permission to kill one of the captives. Sadly, no unique voice lines remain, and the character just acts as another generic NPC. Of course, we can't talk about the Techatticup mine and Nelson without mentioning Camp Forlorn Hope. Originally, small groups of Legion and NCR soldiers were meant to spawn and assault the opposing side's base, but this feature was disabled around the time of the Dead Money's DLC. Cut NCR soldiers with sniffer dogs were intended to appear at Camp Forlorn Hope, where they would have patrolled the area. There were also supposed to be many more NCR soldiers stationed there. Doc Richards has an unused dialogue topic. CFH Richards' patient healed dumb, suggesting that it was once possible for the player to cure the wounded soldiers in the medical tent with low intelligence. This would have worked similarly to how you can heal one of the boomer patients at Nellis Air Force Base, with dumb luck. Technical Sergeant Reyes in the command tent will ask you to help her find out who's been tampering with NCR radio communications. Starting the quest, return to sender. Originally, one of the possible outcomes for this quest, described internally in the GEC as the best possible outcome for the NCR, would have involved Chief Hanlon, the player, and Reyes forming a secrecy pact. Ending the quest in this way would have increased morale in Forlorn Hope, and would have seen Rangers starting to appear in the camp. There's more post-game cut content found in this location, but I'll cover all the post-game stuff later in the video. Next, we'll look at HELIOS One. The troopers sleeping on the beds outside once had scrap tents set up over their beds. 4 industrial machines would have appeared behind the HELIOS One building, along with 4 diesel tanks to the side. There was even a staircase planned to lead to the back entrance of Helios, but it was ultimately cut. If you head west of Helios through the Scorpion Gulch, you'll find Hidden Valley, where the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel is hiding in their Hidden Valley bunker. At one point, you would have been able to witness an argument between Elder McNamara and Head Paladin Harding. However, only voice lines remain for this scene.
I understand your concern, Edgar, but the answer is no.
Then what do you propose? Every day that he's here, the risk increases.
And our chances of exposure might be 100% if we act rashly.
Better that than not act at all.
No, I will not endanger the entire chapter so recklessly. Look, I've made my decision. Abide by it. I have other matters to attend to.
It seems that the player was once intended to use the VR pods in the bunker, likely to play a VR game similar to Operation Anchorage, where the objective would have been to defend the Hidden Valley from the Enclave. A VR pod called HV Player Pod Ref and a message titled HV Game Score Message exists in the files, tracking the player's kills in the VR game. Additionally, there are cut notes relating to Melissa, indicating that she played the VR simulation at a deliberately low difficulty level. During the Still in the Dark quest, where you have to deal with Ranger Dobson, if you decide to inform him about the Hidden Valley bunker and the Brotherhood's presence, 4 paladins would usually show up and ambush you. This encounter should have been accompanied by one of the paladins force greeting you and declaring you a traitor.
Traitor! Learn what it means to betray the Brotherhood of Steel.
Next, let's look at Sloan and Quarry Junction. Chomps Lewis has a non-functioning AI package that would have allowed him to walk around Sloan after giving you his warning. Normally, after speaking to you, he stands in the same spot, but originally, he was supposed to eat, sleep, and interact with the other workers. Jas Wilkins also has an unused AI package that would have made her leave Sloan for the Strip when Quarry Junction had been cleared out and her Deathclaw Omelet quest had been completed. Right next to the main entrance of Quarry Junction, a dead powder ganger can be found surrounded by a couple of young Deathclaws. This powder ganger was actually intended to be a temporary follower named Hawkins, who would have been connected to a cut quest, where the player would have had to rescue him from the Deathclaws and escort him back to Sloan, where he would have tried to con the player into giving him money to return home. Apparently, he would have also been involved in an earlier powder ganger raid on Sloan, still mentioned by Chomps Lewis.
They moved into the quarry after the powder gangers came through and made off with most of our dynamite. I don't know who screwed up, but the powder gangers are loose. It was one group that attacked us and took our entire supply of dynamite.
If the player discovered this, Hawkins would have tried to flee. He also would have had some dialogue lines about Samuel Cook, who would have been involved in the raid as well. This quest sadly ended up getting cut because it was essentially a low-level mission that would have needed endgame tier abilities for the player to actually complete. The Don't Make a Beggar of Me quest obtained from the Great Khans at their encampment in Quarry Junction also contains some cut content. According to the quest script, it was once intended for Chomps Lewis to accompany the player, most likely to see Tyrone, and negotiate a better deal for the chem shipment. If the quest was completed favorably for both sides, Tyrone would have become a merchant, selling chems. Across from Quarry Junction, on the eastern side of I-15 lies Black Mountain, a location inhabited by Nightkin and super mutants, under the leadership of Tabitha. For some reason, about half of the enemies here are disabled. Originally, there was supposed to be several Nightkin ambushes along the way, as well as patrols of super mutants accompanied by centaurs acting as guard dogs. A cut note was meant to appear on one of the fallen NCR troopers laying on the road, titled Black Mountain Investigation Note. It reads, "It was a fool's errand to send us into these mountains. The road seems deserted at night, just like our scouts said, but halfway up we found ourselves attacked from random directions by enemies we couldn't see. In the chaos that followed, the squad got split up, and now I don't know where my men are. Hopefully some of them made it." It's speculated that this note might have been part of a cut quest to rescue some of the surviving NCR soldiers on the mountain. On top of the summit of Black Mountain before the main compound, there's an overturned satellite dish used as a makeshift camp by the second-gen super mutants. Inside is a functional ham radio that the player can use to interrupt Tabitha's radio broadcast.
Hey, you interrupted my broadcast, dum-dum! So there better be a good reason! What is it?
There's a cut speech check that you could have used to make Tabitha order her Nightkin to attack the other super mutants. You could have pretended to be one of the mutant dum-dums, as she calls them, and announced that you're rejecting her leadership, and from now on following Neil.
I am Supreme Commander, best friend Tabitha! Neil is nothing! You are all traitors! I sentence all dum-dums to death!
This speech check never becomes available in the final release because of an unachievable condition where you would have to learn somehow that Tabitha is paranoid. Interestingly, there are prototype dialogue messages for a situation where Tabitha could confront the player possibly for tampering with the otherwise useless dish alignment controls via the radio system. In these messages, she threatens to blow up the entire base to stop the player from messing with her equipment. Even more interestingly, one of the radar dishes is actually rigged to explode. If triggered, the dish would completely shear off and embed itself in the ground just in front of the Blackrock cave. If you chose to repair Rhonda, Tabitha's broken robot companion, and then leave the storage building, it was initially intended for the player to be confronted not only by Tabitha, but also by 6 other Nightkin in an ambush scenario. This would have made any violent resolution to the quest crazy that much more challenging. The 188 trading post, located northeast of Black Mountain, also contains a significant amount of cut content. Cut NPCs named Destitute Travelers were meant to appear here, heading back to New California, with their own unique dialogue.
I sat down at a roulette table with my life savings. An hour later, it was gone.
The strip ain't nothing but a monster. Chews folks up, sucks out their caps, and spits them back out.
Go east, they say. Scrap lying in the sun for you to grab. Yeah, right.
I won big my first night on the strip. I kept chasing that feeling, right into the gutter.
Can you spare some caps, mister? I understand. Sorry to be a bother.
Additionally, more cut NPCs simply named Travelers were intended to appear, journeying from New California to Vegas, in hopes of striking rich.
I'll get in, win big, get out. Take those winnings back home where they'll do some good.
I walked all the way from the hub. Thought I'd rest my feet here a day or two, then I head onto the strip fresh.
I can't wait to see the strip. I hear it's so beautiful.
I'm sick of the sob stories you hear around here. If you don't know when to stop gambling, that's no one's fault but your own.
A water Brahmin would have appeared by the 188 Slop and Shop, but was disabled. There are also several out-of-work mercenaries hanging around here, but they were disabled in the final game. These mercenaries also have unique dialogue.
Sitting around here makes me miss my raider days. I don't know why I figured it was time to get respectable.
Stay out of my way and I'll stay out of yours, got it?
I only work for caravans, alright? Try someone else.
Alexander, the gunrunner arms dealer, has unused topics to tell him about your achievements in Primm and Quarry Junction, in an attempt to impress him after he dismisses you as small time.
That'll help. Still plenty of problems out that way, though. You took out a Deathclaw nest. Either you're lying, or you're tougher than you look. Still plenty of troubles out that way, though.
Southeast of the 188 lies Boulder City, or rather the ruins of it. A cut quest would have appeared here, where in it, the player would have had to track down a character named Jack Wilson, who would have been found in Gomorrah. Jack would have been a contractor in charge of rebuilding Boulder City, and would have also operated Quarry Junction. According to a cut note tied to the quest, Jack Wilson is getting paid to move the stone from the quarry to the city ruins. However, the existing rubble already in the city could be used instead to save money. This, however, is vetoed by the NCR, who consider the materials unusable. The player most likely would have had to convince Jack to use the rubble anyway, to either speed up or save money on the rebuilding costs, or perhaps to circumvent Quarry Junction because of the death clause. Ike, the bartender of the Bighorn Saloon, would have informed you where to find Wilson. Victor has a cut line for when the player meets him here early in the game, before the strip. If the player asks him about having seen Benny, he has a line with deliberately impossible conditions, where he suggests he's never heard of Benny before, and didn't know that was the name of the man you were following.
Benny? Fancy Pants' name is Benny? No, but I reckon that bunny hopped his way back to New Vegas.
The Legion-occupied eastern side of the Colorado River was originally envisioned to have more settlements, as shown in this early New Vegas development map by Chris Avalon. 3 notable cut settlements are mentioned: Elephant Hill, located east of Cottonwood Cove; Malpai's Legionary Camp, located east of Camp Forlorn Hope. The camp was most likely connected to Joshua Graham, formerly known as the Malpai's Legate. Corporal Sterling also mentions this location when talking about his capture by the Legion.
Got myself caught by legionaries up near Malpai. They had themselves some fun with me. Mangled my hands and feet pretty good.
And Camp Willow, presumably a Concord NCR station, located at the real-world Willow Beach Marina. Interestingly, this location is listed in the official New Vegas strategy guide as the site of one of the decisive battles of the first Hoover Dam campaign, yet strangely, it is never actually mentioned by anyone in the final game. The Legion's Fort, a location we do get to explore, contains a lot of cut content. For one, a massive area of the fort was sealed off and cut, where you would have been able to find most of the legionaries living and preparing for the battle ahead. The sheer size of the camp would have also emphasized the Legion's true strength, a force that strikes fear into both the NCR and the residents of New Vegas. Female slaves can be found walking around the fort, each carrying massive backpacks on their shoulders. They have only one available response if you choose to interact with them.
Excuse me.
Whether by accident or not, we never get to hear all of the dialogue that was actually intended for these poor souls, including voice lines for cut male slaves that were completely removed from the game.
The work never ends.
My feet are killing me.
I need to rest.
So many tasks to attend to.
They also have voice lines reacting to some of your companions.
How disgusting. You can see that strange mechanical mongrel's brain.
What is that thing? I've never seen a blue mutant.
Ugh, one of the burned people walks in our camp.
If you were a female courier, the male slaves would have had unique reactions to your gender and presence in the fort.
You're a woman, and yet you wander free? Huh.
You're a woman, and yet you wander free. Huh.
A cut sabotage quest was planned for this location, where you could have used infected Brahmin meat to poison the Legion's stew, as indicated by this leftover message. Additionally, you could have also poisoned and killed all of the Legion mongrel dogs, with some NPCs still having voice lines about it.
Those Legion beasts needed to be put down, like the vermin they are.
Legionaries are next on the list of rabid dogs to put down.
Our hounds were bred to kill. They are missed.
Siri would have been involved in this quest as well, helping the player obtain the infected meat. A female slave was meant to appear near Siri, preparing meat, with unused meat preparation animations. Dale Barton, the roving trader found at the fort, was supposed to have a Pag Brahmin with him, but it was ultimately disabled. Caesar has cut dialogue, where if you wiped out some of the ranger stations, he was supposed to acknowledge it when meeting you for the first time.
A number of NCR ranger stations have been wiped off the face of the Mojave, thanks to you.
And during the Legion's main quest, some leftover dialogue suggests that the player could have convinced Caesar to ally with the Brotherhood of Steel.
And you think the value of their attack on Helios, the chaos it will sow behind the profligates' lines, is worth letting them live? All right, let it be so. The Brotherhood will have to be dealt with eventually, but for the moment, they live to serve.
Moving back to the west side of the Colorado River, not far from Hoover Dam, you can encounter Camp Gulf, which serves as the regional headquarters for the NCR Rangers. Multiple troops were disabled here, along with a unique scene where 5 random Wastelanders would attempt to get water from one of the pipes in the camp, which would have been restricted for NCR use only. 2 troopers would have confronted the group and opened fire on them.
Hey, look over there. It's those Mojave rats again coming to take our water. You, over there. Go back where you came from, thieves. Don't try our patience.
This is our land. You won't last here forever.
Screw it. Just shoot. They'll get the hint. Over here. Come on.
They've got no right to come near our outposts. This is NCR territory now.
Damn rats. Next time I see them, I swear I'll aim right between their eyes.
The surviving Wastelanders would have had unique voice lines as well.
They're hoarding our water. How are we supposed to survive the desert, huh?
We'll be back. They can't step over our people forever.
We'll get back our water and our land one of these days. We'll be mean to those soldiers until they leave.
The side quest flags of our foul-ups found here has some cut content. According to the quest script, it was originally possible to send the Misfits on a suicide mission, where they would have been killed horribly. There's also a cut terminal related to this quest, where you would have had the option to delete mission files to save their lives. Poindexter, one of the Misfits members, has unused dialogue about the Caravan card game. Apparently, you could have played it with him. If you won, he would have been surprised and challenged you to another game.
Well now, this is an unexpected variable. You really must let me challenge you to a rematch so I can analyze what passes for your strategy.
But if you lost, he would declare you a loser and an inferior.
I am unsurprised regarding your appalling lack of talent. Perhaps you'd care to try another hand? After all, you can only improve.
Red Rock Canyon and the Great Cons. In Red Rock Canyon, originally, there was a quest named VMS 48 that would have allowed the player to undergo the con initiation ritual and become a Great Con. You would have had to speak to a cut NPC named Rightmaster to begin the quest, and face off against 4 cons, who would have been found in the arena, practicing on training dummies. Using the GEC, they can still be re-enabled to appear in the game. The empty locker found at the entrance is connected to this quest as well. It would have functioned as a temporary storage for the player's items while they were in the arena, in the same way as in the Legion's arena found in the fort. The initiation ritual itself would have been done without any weapons, just using your fists. Also, during the quest Crimea River, you would have had the option to help Jerry the Punk go through the ritual by supplying him with medics. There is still some unused dialogue for this cut part of the quest.
Cheat? The only way I could cheat is if I was so doped up on painkillers that I don't feel anything. Whoa, you were serious. Okay, yeah, this might just work. Thanks.
An alternative version of Papa Khan can be found in the game files. Originally, he was designed to look quite different, complete with his own unique armor and a helmet with red glasses. The cons would have also had a dedicated character who would have run up to the player, either rewarding them for being a good friend to the great cons.
Hey, welcome to Red Rock Canyon. Since you've done so much for the great cons, Papa Khan told me to let you know you can buy weapons at our armory. You can find it in the basement of the burned-out old building at the mouth of the canyon.
or warning them about the consequences if their reputation with the faction was poor.
You're no friend to the Great Khans. You should turn around and leave. And if we see you in the Mojave, well, accidents happen.
The nearby ranger station Foxtrot surprisingly has a bunch of cut content as well. For one, a unique super mutant ranger named Chauncey would have appeared here wearing a comically undersized ranger hat on his giant mutant head. Behind the main tent, a disabled hatch would have appeared that would have led to an underground bunker with barracks for NCR Rangers and two cut characters named Private Biggs and Private Hardcourt, who would have been both involved in a cut quest named V Freeform RS Foxtrot. According to the few remaining player lines, Private Biggs thinks Private Hardcourt is a jinx and would have given the player something to kill her with in order to make the rest of the squad safer. Hardcourt appears to have been intended as a female soldier, as she can be flirted with if the courier is male. Not much more details remain for this quest. Ranger Kudlow, who does appear in the final release, was originally meant to give you a cut note connected to the side quest Return to Sender. This note, titled Kudlow's Report Log, would have described an incident where NCR soldiers were killed in a skirmish with the Great Khans. After action for Incident FS-87, victims include 4 NCR militiamen. Squad was most likely on an unregistered patrol, as they were not being observed until after the attack. Assailants believed to be raiders, likely Great Khans, with hunting dogs. 2 dog corpses were left in the scuffle. Tracks suggest as many as a dozen in the attacking pack. Threat assessment, trivial. Great Khans with dogs present virtually no matter of trouble. Incident likely caused by unskilled NCR patrolmen, failing to radio us for an eyes on backup. Jacobstown. A pond was originally planned to appear in front of the lodge in Jacobstown, but was disabled in the final game, likely due to performance issues. Additionally, more Nightkin were meant to appear in the town, including cut rehab Nightkin versions that might have appeared after helping Doc Henry find a cure for the Nightkin. A human version of Lily exists in the game files, revealing what she looked like before being transformed into a Nightkin by the Master. At Brooks Tumbleweed Ranch, northeast of Jacobstown, you can encounter a crazed Nightkin trying to sell you Wind Brahmin, which turns out to just be a bunch of tumbleweeds. Interestingly, Obsidian had originally planned to add an actual tumbleweed companion to the game, though it was never included. You would have been able to interact with it and travel alongside it. Radioactive tumbleweeds were also planned to appear in the game. They would have moved around on their own throughout the world and were actually classified as living creatures. A cut settlement situated at the far north of the map, just south of Nellis, would have existed, called Underpass. A basic quest was planned here, where the player would fix a water purifier for the town. Working script and a message box still exist for it. There are also several generic NPCs for the town, labeled Underpass citizens, and even a cut mayor named Meg Reynolds. She has some early dialogue, including a voiced greeting.
Well, howdy.
As well as several player-only lines. The boomers at Nellis Air Force Base were originally intended to have a faction disguise system, similar to the NCR and Legion. If you wore their clothing, it would have disguised you as a member of their faction. It seems that at one point, you were meant to walk with Raquel to meet Pearl, but in the final game, you're instead teleported directly to her, after speaking with Raquel at the entrance to Nellis. If you had the Cut Child at Heart perk, you would have had a unique dialogue option with Lindsay, where you could have helped her remember where she put her teddy bear.
Oh, I remember now. I was playing hide and seek in the big hangar. Mr. Loyal made us leave, though.
During the side quest Young Hearts, Jack, the young apprentice, will ask you to make contact with a red-haired girl working at Crimson Caravan. If you chose the evil option and tell Janet to meet Jack without giving her the boomer outfit, she will get killed, which ends the quest. Interestingly, Jack has some unused voice lines that were meant to play after Janet's death, but they never do.
You're a terrible person. I loved her, and you let her run right into our kill zone. Why didn't you stop her? I wish we'd blown you up. I wish you were dead. Just leave me alone.
Now we'll explore the cut content found in the outer areas of New Vegas, including in locations like Westside, Camp McCarran, and Aerotech Office Park. Westside was initially planned to be connected to the rest of the world space, meaning you wouldn't have to go through a loading screen to access the settlement. There would have also been a lot more NPCs populating it, named Outer Vegas Defenders. The cut Westside suburbs would have appeared surrounding the settlement as well. It would have been far more built up than what we got in the final game, with extra buildings and roads. During the quest to Whitewash, if you follow Hector into the North Cistern and Westside, you can find out from him that Tom Anderson killed Corporal White. After exiting the cistern, 3 Cut Westside thugs were intended to confront you.
Hassling Hector, huh? Got a thing for little kids? We saw you follow the kid in there. Figured we'd teach you a lesson.
If you had a high enough speech skill, you could have convinced them to back off.
No, it's all right. We're just looking out for our own. You understand. We're, sorry to bother you.
Also, after discovering the truth about Anderson killing Corporal White, it was once possible to blame the Scorpions for his death. If you had Arcade Gannon as a companion during this quest, he would have reacted to you blaming the Scorpions.
Interesting way of handling things. Very sub rosa. I don't know if the Scorpions deserve to be wiped out for something they didn't do, but that's one less problem Westside has to deal with.
The Thorn, an underground fighting arena located just outside the south entrance to Westside, also has some cut content. At one point, you could have released all of the beasts from their cages there, causing them to attack and kill all of the Thorn guards and spectators, including Red Lucy.
Run! Beast got free!
Death claws are loose! Get out of here!
The beasts would have even spilled out of the Thorn into Westside. If the Westside guards and residents managed to deal with them, they would have had reactions to the Thorn being wiped out and the death of Red Lucy.
One of those beasts cut my friend in half. How the hell did they escape from Red Lucy?
All hell broke loose when the creatures escaped from the Thorn.
Can't believe that the Thorn's no more.
Even more south of Westside lies the Monte Carlo Suites, occupied by the Scorpion Gang, led by their leader Yvette. This character at some point in the game's development would have provided an unmarked quest to aid the gang in obtaining a steady supply of ammunition from the shady NCR quartermaster Daniel Contreras, located in Camp McCarran. An unused paper note called Ammunition for the Scorpions would have been given to the player. It reads, Yvette, the leader of the Scorpions on the west side of New Vegas, wants you to set up a steady supply of ammunition from the NCR quartermaster at Camp McCarran. Her gang recently acquired new firearms, but lacked the ammunition to put them to use. Also found in the crumbling hotel is another named Scorpion member named Roller. He would have acted as the gang's chem dealer, and would have presumably been in charge of fixing weapons and manufacturing ammunition. A cut Sunset Sarsaparilla Eyebot was meant to appear in front of the Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters with its own unique dialogue.
Welcome to the headquarters of the Sunset Sarsaparilla Company. You appear to require assistance. I'll go find someone.
Most of the area south of SSHQ, known as the South Vegas Ruins, is infested with fiends. There's an unused script in the game files called Fiend Test Armor Script that would have made the fiends friendly if the player wore a specific piece of fiend armor. This would have allowed the player to explore the area without fighting them. Additionally, the player would have been able to converse with 3 of the fiend mini-bosses, Cook, Driver Nephi, and Violet.
If I had to guess, it's because I cook for the rest of the gang. I'm a good cook. Maybe I'll make you dinner sometime. That's right. Ramen, mole rats, lizards, the occasional traveler lost in the wrong part of town. Not Queenie, though. I'd never cook my Queenie. That's Queenie. She's the prettiest Brahmin in the Wastelands. Aren't you, Queenie? Yes, you are. Who's a good girl?
Who are you?
Who wants to know? You here for my dogs? Can't have my dogs? Here for me? You can't have my meat. Meat's for dogs. I'm Violet. Dogs are mine. Meat is mine.
What's the deal with all these dogs?
Dogs? Good dogs. My dogs. Fiend dogs. Tear you up. Arf, arf, arf! Arf, arf! Hey! No feeding my dogs!
Who are you?
Name's Nephi, friend. Driver Nephi. Pleasure to meet you.
How many NCR citizens you figured you killed with that club?
Huh? Oh, lots. More than any other fiend. Hundreds, maybe. Wham, bam. Oh, God, my brains. You hit me in my brains. Easy as that.
As many of you know, the Fiends also occupy Vault 3, and you would have originally encountered a lot more of them there. The vault itself contains a number of cut terminal entries that were never included in the final release. These entries describe what the vault residents were doing before they foolishly opened the doors to the Fiends. Camp McCarran, located east of the South Vegas Ruins, was meant to have an additional entrance at the back of the camp where Private Crenshaw is doing his patrols. He even mentions it.
Hey, can't you see I'm busy here? Nah, I'm just kidding. This has to be the most worthless patrol duty on the whole base. They never attack this gate.
The gate's bottle was later repurposed for the Legates camp, still internally referenced as Large Gate Camp McCarran. Also, more fiends were meant to be scattered around McCarran, skirmishing with the NCR troopers guarding the base, and more NCR snipers would have been placed on the guard towers. At the main entrance, an NCR graffiti was once placed there, as well as a stack of tires and a barrel. Inside McCarran, 2 recruits, a cut drill sergeant, and an obstacle course would have appeared.
Either join the recruits running the course or leave the area. No time for idle chatter. These boys need whipping into shape.
All of this was removed at some stage of the game's patching process. A cut green NCR sentry bot would have been found here. It has an AI package that makes it patrol in a loop around the camp. Just like Westside, the Aerotech office park was intended to be part of the rest of the world space. A merchant caravan was meant to actually go inside the office park, possibly to trade with the refugees or Captain Parker. Bert Gunnarsson, a follower's doctor living in the office park, has unused dialogue about himself and about the fiend driver Nephi mentioned earlier.
Well, that's an interesting question. Among the church, I'm called Elder Gunnarsson. The followers call me Doc. You can call me Bert, though.
You're one of the followers of the apocalypse?
I surely am. Well, sort of. I came out from Utah about 6 months back, saw a need for my help here. The followers weren't too happy about that, of course. They haven't been too fond of the NCR for a while, but I go where I'm needed.
What was it that brought you out here from Utah?
Following a lost cause, I'm afraid. My old friend Nephi fell in with a bad crowd. Drug runners, raiders, probably worse things it's better not to dwell on. When his gang headed west, I followed. I thought perhaps I could turn him back to the church. I never was able to reach him. He has allowed drugs and hatred to consume him. He runs with the fiends north of here now. They call him Driver Nephi.
Vault 22, once an agricultural research facility, now overrun with aggressive spore carriers and deadly plant life. At one point, the researcher Keeley found there would have had 2 robots accompanying her, Koch and Boar. Both of them would have had unique dialogue.
Greetings. I do not believe we have met before. I have the singular distinction of being designated as Boar.
Skip the introductions. Why are you here?
My, how rude. If you must know, I am here to assist my master Keeley in her research.
What are you doing here?
I am assisting my master Keeley with her research. We have been tasked with extracting as much of the research that was performed here as possible.
What can you tell me about this place?
Very little, I'm afraid. I've been stuck here calculating protein sequences for most of our sojourn here thus far. Master Keeley has done most of the exploring. She might be able to tell you more.
Where's Keeley now?
I couldn't say exactly. She went down to the lower levels some time ago and hasn't been back since. Do you suppose something has happened to her?
Perhaps I'll go down and look for her.
Oh, thank you. The master can really be a bother sometimes, but she has a good heart. Now I must get back to computing protein sequences. Please tell the master to hurry back if you see her.
Status. Operational. Loading memory banks. Current designation. Koch. Current mission. Warning. Primary defensive objective. Designation Keeley. Taken by unknown hostile entities. Initiating full countermeasures.
Lastly, a cut Brahmin companion was meant to be found near the Freeside's north gate, called Betsy. She would have been found in a pen, kept and sold there by a character named Kevin Hargrove. With enough caps, the player would have been able to acquire her as a companion, with a carrying capacity of 600 pounds. What's even more interesting about Betsy is that whenever the player would sleep, a script would run to see if she was carrying more than 50 items in her inventory. If that was the case, the player would have woken up with all their items and Betsy gone, triggering a quest requiring you to track down your stuff and the Brahmin. According to Betsy's script, she would have returned back to Kevin Hargrove, left the player as a companion, and her name would have been changed to Brahmin, disguising her as just another pack Brahmin. The items left in her inventory would have been given to another character, named Tom Dooley, a merchant that was once planned to appear in Freeside. The player would have had to confront Dooley and Hargrove, most likely having to kill them both in order to retrieve the stolen goods and Betsy, who would have only then become your permanent companion. Alright, now we're gonna look at the cut content of Freeside, and there's a lot of it. For one, Freeside was meant to be one open single large world space, meaning you could have entered Freeside through the north gate and walk all the way to the Strips gate without any loading screens. Sadly, it was later decided to section Freeside off due to console memory limitations at the time. The Followers' old Mormon fort was also meant to be part of Freeside's world space. The Followers were meant to have a faction disguise system if you wore their clothes, just like with the NCR and Legion, but it never ended up being fully implemented. Arcade Gannon found that the fort has some unused dialogue about Eddie during the Eddie My Love companion quest.
Some of the old-timers like Moreno hold grudges against the Brotherhood and the NCR. I'd like to think I'm above that, but you may be right. I'm not going to pout and cry if you give it to the Brotherhood. I'd rather they have it than allow all the knowledge to disappear. I'd just prefer that it go to an organization like the Followers, who are less likely to use it for violent purposes.
He would have also commented on Emily Ortel, asking the player to bug Mr. House's network for the Followers. If he was your companion, he would have reacted to Emily ignoring him and only speaking to the player.
Oh, hello, Emily. Yes, it is I, Arcade Gannon, fellow member of the Followers of the Apocalypse. Would I like to help infiltrate the Lucky 38? I'm so glad you asked.
A lot more NPCs were meant to be walking through or hanging out in Freeside. Gambler NPCs were periodically designed to spawn and walk through Freeside on their way to the Strip, with and without bodyguards. Beggars begging for money from the gamblers and other NPCs would have also appeared, but they don't have any voice lines. Cut drunks would have been found around the Mick and Ralph shop.
Hey, you got any change, man? I got 5 kids to feed. Woohoo!
A man is never drunk if he can lie on the floor without holding on.
Ow! Why are you poking me?
Is there anything more beautiful than a beautiful bussy Brahmin riding a caravanner off in the sunset? Wait, I don't think that came out right.
Many more locals, including ghoul locals, were initially planned to populate Freeside.
My friends say Kimball's assassination was all an Illuminati plot to reclaim power. I say they're crazy. How do you kill someone with a flashlight?
You hear about that band of crazy old ladies running around? I hear they're real vicious when they mug folks. I heard the Legion is bringing in giant mutant dogs to assault the dam. I hope the NCR death squads packed stakes to distract them.
Squatters, broke NCR citizens, would have been found crowding around burning barrels. In the retail version of the game, these NPCs are only seen in the ruined store, with only one voice line available.
Heard some more people got attacked last night.
Heard some more people got attacked last night.
Originally, they had a lot more to say.
Watch yourself if you go into one of them casinos, or you'll be stuck here like the rest of us in no time.
One of these days, I'll save up enough to get out of here. One of these days.
Some of my friends were attacked the other night. Someone should do something.
The Kings say they're keeping the peace, but this place is as violent as ever.
Hey, stranger, if you're hungry, there's a man around here somewhere telling people where to get free food and water.
Pickpockets would have roamed the area, and there were originally supposed to be many more Kings. Unused patrol routes for the Kings are scattered across Freeside, along with numerous unused King NPCs. At one point, large groups of Kings would have patrolled the area. Dixon, the street-side chem pusher, would have had 2 bodyguards protecting him. And Max, the kid chasing his friend Stacy, has unused dialogue. If you had the cut child at Heart Perk during that lucky old sun quest, you could have convinced him to give you the Euclid's Sea Finder.
Really? Cool. Bring it back to me when you're done, okay? I think Stacy might be turning into an alien.
During the GI Blues quest, the King asks you to find out why Oris is getting repeat business and pulling potential customers away from his men. Once you discover his scheme, you can inform the King, which causes Oris to disappear from the game. However, there was a scene that should have occurred after informing the King. If you went back to the North Freeside Gate, you would have observed one of Oris's customers, questioning why Oris isn't around.
That's right, but I'm available, and I'm cheaper.
But I always hire Oris. How do I know you're not trying to steal my business from him?
Look, the Kings clubbed him from behind and dragged him away. I don't think missing your commission is his #1 concern right now.
Fine then, I guess I'll hire you.
Much obliged.
Later in the same quest, after discovering that the NCR are secretly feeding the squatters near the old train station while excluding the locals, the king asks the player to back up Pacer, who is already in a gunfight with the disguised NCR soldiers near the train station. If you help Pacer and kill all the soldiers, the GI Blues quest will be completed favorably for the kings. Later, if you take the job of guarding the Silver Rush store for the Van Graffs, you will be approached by Pacer, who usually disrespectfully tells you to pass along a message to Gloria. You can either do it or tell him to get lost, making him attack you. However, if you helped Pacer defeat the disguised NCR soldiers near the train station, according to Pacer's unused voice lines, he was supposed to recognize you.
Hey, you're the one who helped us out with those NCR chumps. You really get around, don't you?
And you would have then had 3 alternative responses to him. Good to see you too, Pacer.
I'm sure it's the highlight of your day. Anyway, I've got to bounce. Things to do and all that.
Apparently I do. Something wrong with that?
No, nothing wrong at all. By all means, carry on.
Why don't you just get the hell out of here?
Who do you think you're talking to? Just because the king happens to like you, doesn't mean you can run your mouth any way you damn like.
He would have also had 2 bodyguards with him, but they were cut in the final release. Pacer also has unused dialogue about Freeside and the Kings. The player was originally intended to be able to ask him questions after dealing with Oris. Tell me about Freeside.
It ain't much to look at, but this dump has something that even the Strip doesn't, and that's absolute freedom. You go other places, and there's always someone screaming at you to act a certain way or to not do certain things. Freeside's not like that. Everyone here is free to do whatever they want. And I, for one, wouldn't want it any other way.
What about the crime?
What about it? If someone takes your stuff, you're free to take it back. If you can't, maybe you shouldn't have come to Freeside in the first place.
Don't the Kings run this place, though?
We do what we want, just like everybody else. We just have more guys, so other people tend to do what we want too. If somebody does something we don't like, we let them know about it. If they're strong enough not to care about us liking it, good for them.
Rex, the cyber dog, was supposed to hate rats and go into a frenzy, attacking them if one appeared on the current map. While the code for this exists in the game, it was deliberately made non-functional. The initial scene when first entering the Silver Rush was originally intended to be longer. It would have begun without the man kneeling on the floor. Instead, Gloria would have instructed Jean-Baptiste to go get him.
Excuse me for a moment, would you? Jean-Baptiste, could you bring out the volunteer?
The scene would have then explained that the man was a former employee who had been romantically involved with Gloria.
Who is this man? What does this have to do with our deal?
Everything. Up until recently, this man was an employee of mine. He's quite handsome, don't you think? I know I did. We became close. I warned him that I was a very jealous woman, and he said he understood. Apparently he didn't. Last week, I chanced upon him and Gamora being serviced by one of their 2 captors. I was not pleased. I tell you all this because I want you to know that this man means a great deal to me. Do it. Never break faith with the Van Graffs, Mr. Soren. I expect you'll have the rest of our payment ready tomorrow morning.
I think he wet himself before he left. That was pretty good, making up that part about sleeping with Jacob. You did make that part up, right, Glory? Damn it, girl. What has Mama always said about tipping the help? I thought this was about him stealing money from us.
He was stealing money, though he could have kept it for all I cared. God knows he earned it.
Rotface was originally intended to have an entire unmarked quest dedicated to him, where the player could have influenced his fate through dialogue. Once he started making money from supplying tips to the player, he would have begun to purchase nice clothes and items.
Hey, pal. I made so much recently that I was able to afford this little number too. How do I look?
Very classy.
You said it. With these threads, people are finally gonna start noticing me.
And depending on the player's interaction with him, he could have either attracted too much attention from the local thugs and be killed and robbed, attempt to rob you at gunpoint.
Okay, pal. We're gonna do this quick and easy. I know you're loaded down with caps, judging by how much you've already given me. So I thought I'd save us both some time and just take all the caps you have. Hand them over.
Don't shoot. Here you go.
Wow. I didn't think it would be this easy. I should have done this years ago. Guess I'll be going then. Oh, here's a final tip. Don't ever follow anyone into a dark alley in Freeside. Later, chump.
Or join the followers of the apocalypse.
Hey, I'm sorry about being so dismissive about your suggestion before. I thought a lot about what you said. There have been times when just a little bit of money from a stranger would have made a huge difference to me, so I get where you're coming from. Maybe I could make that kind of difference for someone else. Oh, hey, didn't think I'd see you here. I decided to stop scrounging for caps and start making a difference. The followers have been really great. There's always something that needs to be done, and everyone here treats me really well. Sorry if you stopped by my old spot looking for info. I've been so busy lately that I haven't heard anything. Anyway, feel free to stay as long as you like. I've got to get back to work.
Of course, the strip has a lot of cut content as well. Much like Freeside, the strip was originally envisioned as a more open area, but was later sectioned off. There was also an additional entrance planned near the NCR embassy, featuring a large imposing gate that would have led out towards Camp McCarran. 2 NCR troopers would have been sunbathing on top of the NCR embassy's roof, but they ended up being disabled. Captain Marie Papa still has some dialogue about it.
Some fool troopers think they can lounge around on the rooftops instead of doing their job. If I catch them, they'll have KP duty for a year.
A cut side quest called Jailhouse Rock was once planned to appear in the game, involving 4 cut NCR troopers. One would have appeared near the NCR embassy, named Les Fratwell.
Hi, I'm Fretwell. Fretwell again, brah. Freddy at 30.
And the other 3, Trooper Willis and his 2 henchmen, somewhere else in the game world.
Yo, I'm Willis. Trooper Willis to you, punk. Henchman number 1, yeah. Henchman number 2, bro!
Not much details remain on what this quest would have been about, other than it's named after a famous Elvis Presley song, also called Jailhouse Rock. If you have a bad reputation on the strip, an NCR military police trooper may approach you and demand money from you. If you don't pay, he will attack you. Interestingly, there were more encounters intended with these MPs, with one happening outside the strip, most likely in Freeside, where the player would have been confronted by the troopers for the last and final time.
Well, hello there. What a coincidence finding you outside the strip. You should have paid your dues, but no, you had to play hard, huh? Now it's our turn. Nobody f***s with the NCR and lives to brag about it. You're dead, punk.
In Vault 21, if you accidentally killed Sarah Weintraub, or if she died somehow, in the final release, you are unable to purchase a hotel room anymore, and the vault is left without a manager. But there was actually a cut Securitron meant to spawn in her place, with unique dialogue, explaining who he was and what he was doing there.
Greetings, citizen. Please, select your accommodation needs.
What's a Securitron doing here?
Vault 21's previous manager is no longer capable of servicing your needs. Hotel arrangement functions are now purview of Mr. House.
Alright, I need a room.
Proceed to your accommodations. Please, enjoy your stay at Vault 21.
He was also able to assist locating the Euclid Sea Finder.
Predecessor's records indicate matching item purchased by nervous man wearing metal collar. Records indicate man requested free lodging and was directed to concrete building in Freeside. Transmitting coordinates.
There's a cut casino guard that was meant to appear on the strip, and based on his dialogue options, was designed to confiscate weapons from the player before they entered any of the casinos, and return them once they exit. He also shares a striking resemblance with Mr. Holdout, and still has some recorded voice lines.
Nice try, Wise. Now hand everything over before you make a second mistake. Oh, now, what a surprise. Someone trying to smuggle in weapons. You just made a big mistake.
Mr. Holdout, the shady arms dealer found on the strip, was initially meant to wear a trench coat, but it was later changed to a suit. The fountain in front of the Ultralux was originally meant to look different, as seen in some of the pre-release screenshots and media. The scripted encounter, where 3 NCR female soldiers are dancing in the fountain being forced out by a military police unit and 2 Securitrons, also has a couple of cut alternative voice lines that can never be heard in the final game.
Ladies, if you wish to bathe, please check into the Ultralux.
Where's your sexy friend, Vic?
Where's your sexy friend, Vic?
Please remove yourselves from the fountain. The bathhouse is in the Ultralux.
The Ultralux Casino would have featured unused slot machines that don't appear in the final release. If Veronica was your companion, she was once intended to have a cut reaction to the dresses worn in the luxury casino.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Look what they're wearing. I've only seen dresses like those in my dreams. And even then, I couldn't afford them.
The Tops was supposed to have an additional promoter on the strip, but unfortunately he never appears in the game. His voice lines remain unused, and you would have even been able to engage in conversation with him.
Don't miss The Lonesome Drifter, live at the Aces Theater. Songs so sad and lonesome, audience members of the opposite sex will be fighting over who gets to go back to the room with you, guaranteed. The way I hear it, he's some whack job who used to spend his nights sitting around a campfire and howling to himself. Who wants to hear songs that make you want to cry? I try to tell them, but hey, they don't pay me to ask questions. Do me a favor, go see the show. Otherwise, they'll think I didn't do my job.
The interior of the Tops was originally designed to look different, as shown in early E3 footage of the game. It appeared much cleaner and less dilapidated. The chairmen running the casino have unused female members.
Hey, baby, what's the haps? Ring-a-ding, baby.
They were also supposed to wear darker suits, instead of the white ones seen in the final release. After confronting Benny, if he tricked you and convinced you to go to the presidential suite alone, after you arrived there, he will inform you over the intercom that he has no intentions of coming up there. What's weird is that the game never tells you that you have to go talk to the intercom, and you can end up sitting there for a long time waiting on Benny. As it turns out, it was originally intended that Benny would call you over to the intercom.
Hey, baby, over here. I ain't waiting all day, baby. Baby, I'm dying over here.
He also would have reacted to you trying to use the elevator to leave.
That elevator is nowhere, baby. Step over to the mic.
Afterwards, Benny would escape, later only found all the way at the Legion's fort. At one point, though, the devs were looking at implementing a scene where you would have been able to chase after Benny in the cut sub-basement of the Tops. A tunnel would have connected the Tops to Vault 21, and Vault 21 to the rest of the Wasteland. You would have chased Benny down this tunnel. The Gamora Hotel and Casino was originally planned to be much larger, with a wider interior and many more NPCs. In fact, an entire 3rd floor was cut from the game. The Omertas running the casino were also intended to have female members.
Find yourself a girl or a guy. Have some fun.
Along with ghouls, and even a super mutant named Angel.
Business is good. All the families got money. Of course, Gamora is where the action is.
In the quest How Little We Know, connected to the Omertas, if you choose to break up the Omertas' plan to aid Caesar and assault the Strip, you'll have to get rid of Clandon, either by convincing him to leave or by killing him. But there was actually supposed to be a third, hidden option, to report his crimes to Marie Papas, the head officer of the NCR military police. But this option doesn't seem to work properly in the final release. To report him, you would have had to get Clandon's snuff tapes from his wall safe, then go to Cachino and confirm that the voice on the tapes is Clandon's.
Yeah, this is Clandon.
After that's done, you would have had to go to the NCR military police headquarters and report the crime.
Murder? What kind of murder? Do you have any proof?
I found these tapes.
These are terrifying. Do you have any idea who the man is speaking on this tape?
It is a guy named Clandon.
Clandon? Okay. I'll send some troops over there to bring him in.
Sometime later, 4 NCR military police soldiers will enter Gamora and arrest Clandon.
Clandon, under the authority of the New California Republic, I place you under arrest for murder.
What? Are you kidding me? You can't do this. The Omertas aren't going to stand by and let you arrest me.
The Omertas have no say in this matter. This is a legal matter now. You'll have to come with us.
They will escort him all the way back to the police headquarters and place him in a jail cell. Cachino will also comment on the troopers arresting him.
Yeah, we saw the troopers come through. I can't imagine things are gonna work out well for him.
After completing the side quest Bye Bye Love, where you help Joanna escape Gomorrah and the Omertas and reunite with her love Carlitos, it was once intended for the player to encounter the couple again somewhere in the Mojave Wasteland. They would have been shown starting a new life together, and both characters still have unused voice lines referencing this.
I'm happy to see you again. Carlitos and I have been living here since our escape. We'll never forget what you've done for us.
Hey, friend. It's good to see you again. This place doesn't have the glitter of the Strip, but I've got Joanna. That's all I'll ever need.
There's an early cut ending slide showing an alternative version of Mr. House. While this version no longer exists in the game files, it can still be seen in developer diary videos for New Vegas. Mr. House's control room was also originally planned to appear much more sophisticated and elegant, featuring large pools of water on either side, nuclear generators below, pre-war furniture, and even houseplants. When you first arrived at the penthouse in the Lucky 38, House was originally intended to encourage you to speak with him instead of exploring and idling around.
Hello. Come over and introduce yourself. Come now, don't keep me waiting. I invited you here so we could talk, not so you can nose around.
The Lucky 38 also has a unique weather climate that for whatever reason was never implemented properly, called Lucky 38 World Space Climate. Another Securitron named Marilyn was planned to appear at the Lucky 38 alongside Jane. Her primary role would have been to assist the player in customizing and upgrading your presidential suite. During Mr. House's questline, apparently an option was once planned to be introduced for the player to be able to seduce House and access his secret area if they were playing as a female courier. There's even a cut virtual reality pod specifically meant for the player to be scanned in and do the virtual you-know-what with Mr. House. There's also a cut player line that reads, "Would you like to scan me again?" House at one point would have also been able to be convinced to ally with the Brotherhood of Steel, and if you decided to betray House and destroy the Securitron army under the fort, House would have reached out to the NCR and agreed to turn over the Strip to them. A cut offer to permit annexation note still remains from this scenario. It reads, "Upon further reflection, I have determined that it is in my best interests and in the best interests of the new California Republic to transfer sovereignty of the Vegas Strip to the NCR. If all terms are agreed upon, annexation would occur 1 year from today. I am to be granted full status as a citizen of the NCR and immunity from prosecution for any activities prior to annexation. I will be recognized as the sole proprietor of the Vegas Strip, a commercial property. I will be subject to all laws of the NCR, including personal and property taxes. NCR functionaries will police the Strip. I will retire my Securitron police force and limit their movements to the grounds and the interior of the Lucky 38. Please confirm that these terms are agreeable. I do not foresee any objections on your part." Some characters still have voice lines about this.
Be advised, Mr. House has, voluntarily, decided to become a citizen of the NCR. Sovereignty over the Vegas Strip will be transferred to the NCR at a date yet to be determined. Have a nice day.
Mr. House finally wised up and said he'd join the NCR in a year or something like that. Good news all around.
Rumor has it, Mr. House joined the NCR on account of some secret love child he never even knew he had.
During the House Always Wins quest, he will task you with going to the El Dorado substation to interface the Lucky 38 with the power systems there. Originally, this task would have been accompanied by another task to meet Victor near the station and follow him to watch the Lucky 38 light up due to the extra power.
There you have it. New Vegas. Purty as a diamond flush. Well, Rambler, it's a royal flush that beats all. So let's crown this hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeehaw! Ain't that pretty? Don't take in the view for too long, though. Word is the Legion's on the move. Head on back and see the boss real soon. Here?
This can also be experienced if you decided to go with the independent New Vegas ending. Instead of Victor, Yes Man would have accompanied you. If the player started fighting House's Securitrons in the Lucky 38, he once was intended to lock down the elevator and the Lucky 38 for 24 hours, only allowing it to be used to return to the casino floor and exit the building. In the final release, House just tries to kill you if you start combat, instead of giving you a second chance to work with him. Victor also has some cut dialogue if you decided to betray House.
You low-down snake! I wish I'd left you in the ground to rot.
Mr. House also has unused voice lines, where he taunts the player if they attempt to kill him.
What do you think you're going to do? Fight your way up to the penthouse and assassinate me? The Lucky 38 will be your grave. I'll finish what Benny couldn't get right. Your chances of breaking through my defenses, they're minimal at best. Think you're doing well to have made it this far? I would have made you wealthy. You could have helped change the world.
And once you reached his control room, he would start pleading with you to stop and leave.
Hold on. Now hold on. Just a moment. Turn around and leave, and I won't attack you any further. Just stay away from the console. It doesn't do anything.
If you killed him, a pre-recorded announcement by House was intended to play on the strip afterwards.
If this statement is being broadcast, I am deceased. Please approach a Securitron and take one of the printed obituaries.
Next, we'll talk about the cut content of Hoover Dam. Cut giant water exhaust jets that shoot a vast amount of water down into the river below were cut from the dam, as well as cut wooden structures on the side of the dam. 2 NCR flags would have been hanging on the stage but were also removed. Additionally, many more NPCs were planned to populate the dam, including extra engineers and rangers. A cut Securitron exists that would have presumably observed Kimball's speech with his own voice lines.
President Kimball's going to arrive pretty soon to give his speech and meet that wounded soldier. I sure hope I get to meet President Kimball.
There's a cut location on the Hoover Dam called the Arizona Spillway, which was intended to play a more significant role in the battle for Hoover Dam, but was ultimately left unused. During the second battle for Hoover Dam, multiple dead NPCs were disabled that would have appeared on and inside the dam. Additional cut Legion and NCR troops were intended to battle across the area, creating a more intense and expansive fight. Followers of the Apocalypse medics were also supposed to assist injured NCR soldiers during the in-game battle, likely only if the player had convinced Julie Farkas to support the NCR.
Julie Farkas wasn't kidding when she said we would be needed here. Sorry, but I'm busy with patients right now. All this bloodshed, such a waste of human life. I hope the Legion doesn't get in here. I'm just a medic. Please don't hurt me.
After getting through the Hoover Dam battle, you enter the Legate's camp. Originally, a windy road was planned to connect Hoover Dam to the Legate's camp, but it was ultimately removed. If siding against the Legion, it's possible the player would have faced additional resistance along this road before reaching the camp itself. When facing off against the Legate, Linnaeus was intended to have his own personal Legion dogs assisting him in the fight, which would have made the encounter more challenging. There's still dialogue in-game, where you can convince him to call off his hounds and fight you one-on-one.
No, I shall make it a contest, whether I can kill you before my hounds tear you apart.
If you ever killed Caesar but still sided with the Legion, you would have encountered an ending slide showing the Legate crowned as the new Caesar and entering New Vegas. What's strange about it is that the depicted Linnaeus is wearing the Centurion armor instead of his unique Legate armor. You can actually still find this version of Linnaeus in the game files, with some unused generic voice lines that we never get to hear in the game.
Caesar has been seen walking among the troops. A good omen. A tribe called the Great Khans has joined us. They'd better be good fighters. I can't believe Caesar is dead. What will we do now?
If you sided with Mr. House and fought against the NCR and Caesar's Legion after defeating Linnaeus, a cut scene was supposed to play where House would have interacted with General Oliver.
Ah, General Oliver. I expected you would survive. I see you've met my star employee. A real performer, obviously, and a lot more reliable than the other candidate I considered for the position. I'd pay very close attention to what he has to say, as well as any official papers he hands over for your perusal. Let's get on with it, shall we?
Alternatively, if you went with the Independence ending, a similar scene would have occurred, only now with Yes Man.
Greetings, General Oliver. The disappointment you are about to experience delights me.
Telling Yes Man to throw General Oliver from the dam will trigger a cutscene. In it, Yes Man also has some unused voice lines. He would have said,
"Please, do not struggle, General Oliver. You might hurt yourself. I will release you presently."
Now, for the final chapter of the video, we're going to explore the cut post-game content. Obsidian originally intended for the game to be playable after the ending slides, and some characters still have leftover dialogue reacting to the different possible outcomes. First, we'll start with Mr. House's ending. If you side with him after the ending slides, it seems you would have been able to talk to a disabled Securitron standing in front of the Legate's camp gate. If you spoke to him, he would have informed you that he was sent there to escort you back to the Lucky 38.
I've been sent to take you back to the Lucky 38. Are you ready to go? Let's proceed.
You would have then been teleported to the penthouse. In front of the elevator, Jane has a dialogue line that was intended to play after Mr. House's victory.
See? Mr. House has everything well in hand.
Just like the ending slides mentioned, the Strip and Freeside would have become orderly, with Securitrons now patrolling the area. If you interacted with them, they would say,
"Welcome to New Vegas, where a new day is dawning."
The locals in Freeside also have voice lines reacting to House's victory.
Can't say I like all the tin cans shuffling around, but this new Securitron army shouldn't have much trouble keeping things safer around here.
Well, it looks like we won't have to worry about NCR or the Legion messing with us now. I just hope the Securitrons can keep the peace. As if House didn't have enough control already. At least we don't have to deal with NCR or the Legion now.
If you had Veronica with you as a companion, she would have said,
For some reason, it warms my heart that we fought for the kooky old geezer. Guess he reminds me of someone.
Ralph at Mick and Ralph's in Freeside would have been pretty happy about House's victory.
That old coot House is gonna make me rich. With all the new rules and regulations in New Vegas, I'll make a killing circumventing them.
And Dazzle in Gamora would have said,
Guess it's true what they say. The House always wins in the end.
Even the Legion slaves have reactions to House defeating the Legion.
The leader of New Vegas and his army of robots has defeated both the NCR and the Legion. What will happen now?
If you listen to the radio, Mr. New Vegas would have confirmed that Mr. House has defeated the NCR and Legion and taken the dam for himself.
While it initially appeared to be an NCR victory, we're receiving word that our own Mr. House may have been the one to secure the dam for himself.
Sadly, Mr. House has no post-game voice lines. If you sided with the NCR after talking with General Oliver and the ending slides, you would have been teleported in front of the memorial in Boulder City. Troopers stationed at HELIOS One and Camp McCarran would have reacted to the NCR's victory.
The attacks have stopped. Winning the dam saved our asses.
I can't believe it's over. I figured the dam would fall and this place would be our last stand.
Tech Sergeant Reyes and Dr. Richards at Camp Forlorn Ho would have also reacted.
You should have heard the cheers over the radio when news of the victory came back from the dam.
With the Legion defeated, things are great now.
Legion slaves would have commented.
There's talk that many of the ranking Legionaries will be beheaded for allowing the NCR to defeat the Legion yet again.
Red Lucy at the Thorn would have reacted negatively towards the NCR victory and would have told you that you're not welcomed at the Thorn anymore.
The Thorn does not welcome you, stranger. Leave now or suffer the consequences.
The locals in Freeside wouldn't have been so hostile, though.
Without you, we'd all be slaves. Thanks for helping the NCR at the dam.
The Securitrons on the Strip would have also celebrated the NCR's victory.
Welcome to Vegas, capital of the sixth state of the new California Republic.
Ralph would react like he knew the NCR would win the whole time.
And NCR wins. No, really, I'm shocked. I totally didn't expect the guys with advanced armor and seemingly unlimited ammunition to take down an army of machete-wielding ingrates.
Dazzle and Gamora would have been pretty happy as well.
All those NCR troops should see me to celebrate. Come one, come all.
If you helped broker an alliance between the Brotherhood and the NCR, Veronica would have had this to say.
Not sure what my parents would think of me fighting for the NCR. But for New Vegas, it seemed like this was the best chance at stability. I don't regret it.
Mike Lawson has post-game voice lines saying that he'll return back to New California.
I love this place, but I can't take this kind of stress anymore. I'm gonna head back west to see my grandkids.
Quartermaster Barton would have thanked you for your help.
You really saved our out there against the Legion. Thanks.
And you could have asked Colonel Moore, how have things been since the battle?
Surprisingly good. Our forces have managed to secure the region with little resistance, and trade should soon reach an all-time high.
The brass was particularly surprised by the lack of domestic threats in the area. They were prepared to spend months pacifying known troublemakers. When they found those threats absent, they turned to the man in charge of the area, but Shu being Shu, he denied having anything to do with it. So now the men have to answer to Brigadier General Moore, and both they and I have you to thank for it. We made a good team. I hope we can work together again in the future. With their leader dead, the rest of their army retreated to the east. We've sent scouts to track them, but that's it. We don't have the forces or supplies necessary to chase them down. More's the pity. Still, I've sent a few skilled men out to make sure their journey is eventful. It should be a long time before they even think of returning.
Lieutenant Boyd has an unused post-game voice line where she's messing with Sealus at Camp McCarran if you didn't complete her quest.
No, I've got this one. I don't think he's gonna have much information of value, so I'm just tormenting him for fun. Thanks, though.
If instead of wiping out the Great Khans, you convince them to break their alliance with Caesar and leave the Mojave, locals in Freeside would have reacted to them leaving during the battle.
The Great Khans moved out? One less mob of degenerates to worry about if you ask me.
And of course, Mr. New Vegas would have broadcasted and announced the NCR victory.
Intense fighting erupted on Hoover Dam as tensions between NCR and Caesar's Legion boiled over. Reports indicate that NCR forces emerged victorious and the Legion scattered amidst the defeat of its most feared military leader.
If you sided with the Caesar's Legion, Mr. New Vegas would have said this on the radio instead.
Preliminary word is that Caesar's Legion has taken control of the dam, and that the NCR presence in Nevada is severely crippled.
Legionaries on the now occupied dam would joyfully say,
"Our victory was never in question.
All that Caesar promised has come true."
And legionaries in New Vegas would greet you with,
"Awe, amigos."
"Awe, amigos."
Locals in Freeside would have been very upset about Legion's victory.
Why not just put the slave collars on us yourself, you... With the Legion at the dam, it won't be long before they enslave us all.
Dazzle seemed to either been preparing or had already fled Gamora, with her saying,
"I'm not letting the Legion make me a slave. Even I have standards."
Ralph in Freeside would have been pretty upset as well.
With Caesar's Legion in control of the dam, I think things are going to get much more difficult around here.
Deck Sergeant Reyes has a reaction as well.
I've been trying to sort out the rumors from the facts, but with the Legion coming, I guess it doesn't matter. The news is all bad.
Interestingly, Veronica has voice lines on the Legion victory as well.
Never sided with a group of marauders before, but I think the Brotherhood stands a better chance against them than they did against the NCR. That gives me some hope.
Camp Forlorn Hope would have been empty with a mass grave of NCR soldiers at its cemetery. Securitrons on the strip would still be alive and announce,
"True to Kaiser."
And finally, if you decided to go for an independent ending with Yes Man, Veronica would say,
Independent New Vegas. If that isn't redundant, I don't know what is. But I like its chances.
The locals in Freeside would have had a couple of reactions.
They say you single-handedly assaulted the dam and massacred everyone. That must have been quite a sight.
They say you swarmed the dam with a whole army of Securitrons. That must have been quite a sight.
They would also comment on the fact that the Great Khans went wild at the Hoover Dam battle.
I heard the Khans went wild at Hoover Dam. I suppose they were looking for one last blaze of glory.
This would happen if you killed Papa Khan, became their chief, and ordered them to attack everyone at the dam. Dazzle and Gamora would have been pretty happy about an independent New Vegas.
No Mr. House, no NCR, no Legion, no rules. New Vegas is gonna be just one wild, never-ending party.
Same with Ralph.
An independent Vegas. Never thought I'd see it. House may be gone, but the players remain the same. Business as usual, then.
Deck Sergeant Reyes would have been confused about the outcome.
Lots of confusion over the radio. Somehow the NCR lost the dam, but the Legion didn't get it either?
If you didn't destroy the Brotherhood, they would have taken the opportunity during the battle for Hoover Dam to take over HELIOS One.
HELIOS One is safe in our hands, and our hands alone.
Under NCR control, this place was a gun in the hands of a child.
We will not lose this place again.
Surprisingly, somehow, Fantastic would have also still been there, with his own power armor.
I look so good in this. I want you to call me spectacular from now on.
and Mr. New Vegas on the radio would have announced,
"But in a shocking turn of events, the dam has been rendered useless, and both sides have taken heavy casualties. Neither faction appears to have won. Now, sources at the dam are telling us that the involvement of one key person appears to have heavily influenced the outcome.